This is the Journey Inward podcast with Steve and Jack, moving deep into the minds of unique individuals, learning about their own journey inward and the lessons they learned from this experience that we call life.
Very professional.
You gotta do the clap for the sound check. Hello, welcome to the Journey Inward podcast. Today I've got Simon Bourne from the Hand-Dyed Shoe Company, someone who I've known for a very long time.
Yeah, must be pushing 25 years maybe.
25 years, yeah. So we've sort of come in and around in a circle, haven't we?
Via opposite ends of the globe and all sorts of literally round in a big circle and found our way back here.
Yeah. So both went to school together, both at New College Durham together. And now we're probably about 4 or 5 doors away from each other, both running our own businesses. And you know, with the Journey Inward podcast, it's about finding unique individuals, and I think that Simon is a unique individual in a very, very good way, and expresses himself how he wants to express himself. And I suppose the first question is, you know, being a unique individual, have you always been like that? Has it been a journey to have the courage to be able to express yourself as who you are, and how's that led on to what you do in everyday life?
I think I've definitely always been unique as an individual. I think going back to our sort of really early days of knowing each other, school and things like that, and probably college as well, unique but not really knowing who I was, or very sort of confused, and that sort of manifested itself in all sorts of sort of irrational behaviour, if you like. So, you know, attention seeking, or as I now like to call it, seeking attention, which I can come on to later. It's so journey, obviously everybody's got a journey, do you know what I mean? But I think my 20s were quite lonely within my own spirit and self. I was very happy in terms of my life and my relationships and things like that, but just with myself, I just sort of always felt a bit like a caged animal, and a bit just frustrated.
Who I think of in terms of Simon back when I knew you at school is that I just thought you were someone that didn't take any shit. That's why I just thought I actually quite admired that as well, because I was I'm not going to step on Simon's toes because I know he just won't take any shit from anyone. So
teachers included. So if there's any teachers watching, I apologise now.
But it's interesting how you perceive other people, isn't it? And we were talking about this not far back, and you actually I don't know if you did a post on it. You actually said it to me about who the person who you thought that.
Absolutely. On the outside, looking at, you look at Steve and Jack, and I think that Steve and Jack at school is he's a footballer. He's a good-looking lad. I don't know what went wrong there.
Times are hard.
But good footballer. Popular, loads of mates, this, that, and the other, and just absolute confidence, world at his feet. Goes and does sports, and somebody who I looked at and thought, I wish I was a bit more like him. And then obviously your journey through your relationships and your travelling and things like that has been very sort of, don't want to put words in your mouth, but very topsy-turvy, upside down, and fragile at times. It's probably fair. And perception, and your perception of me back there was somebody you didn't mess with, or you didn't thought was a bit of a nutter or whatever. And it's really interesting, but we're both probably hiding insecurities during that period.
Sure. And you didn't know at the time as well.
I didn't know I was insecure. I didn't know it. I just knew that I was a bit frustrated and fed up and angry and carrying all this bitterness and just nastiness, ugliness, internal nastiness. And it kind of took me until really sort of starting the business that then I truly started to understand what all that feeling was and all that emotion was that was sort of trapped within us, and then it manifested itself into Hand-Dyed Shoe Co. and expressing me as an individual, and then subsequently the product that I sell and all of that. So it is a journey, like you say.
Yeah, and I suppose you don't really realise at the time, like you say, when you're on that journey of life, which we're on, how much you change, and looking back at who you were 10 years ago and who you are now are totally different people, right? Could you say that yourself, like in terms of like how much
it's incredible. What I sometimes pinch myself with is 10 years ago, well, actually, I've just celebrated my 10-year wedding anniversary. So there we go. 10 years ago, I was just getting married. I was still carrying insecurity even on my wedding day. Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily with my relationship or with who I was marrying or anything like that.
Was it the wedding anniversary you did?
Not today.
All right.
A couple of weeks ago.
Well,
Just
congratulations for that. Anyway.
So like, I think back to that. I think 10 years ago, very little was different in terms of like who was around us. My circle of friends was very much the same as it is today. My girlfriend, partner, wife, fiance at the time is still the same as it is today. I now have 2 kids, which obviously is slightly different. But my career is different. But the whole point being is like what was around us was very different. But what comes out of me now is very different. It is very different because the output, what I'm putting out to the world it is from a secure place, whereas before it was from an insecure place, so therefore it was fraught with this hidden, non-authentic truth. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you feel like from who you were before? Because I can relate to that totally. Is trying to fit in, and doing things that you think that people would like you for. If you know what I mean, absolutely. Rather than doing the things that you like. And that's they're what I like to call your own unique and authentic attributes or characteristics that you like superpowers. So is that sort of like what you
so like then like say all the output and I still think to a degree the business now is like it feeds my ego, it feeds like it makes me feel worthy, it makes me feel sort of like who am I serving there? Am I serving other people by giving them something to give back to me? Do you know what I mean? Who knows? Do you know what I mean?
It's very interesting.
All I can sort of summarise is that when I run the business, I feel better about myself, and therefore I'm a better person to my wife, to my kids, to my family, friends, all that sort of thing. So like, and ultimately that killer word that everybody's looking for is I'm just a happier person when I'm running the business. I'm more content with myself, and I'm just satisfied with what I'm doing, do you know what I mean? And I go home happy, ultimately, even if I've made no money, do you know what I mean? Like, I've sold nothing or whatever, it doesn't...
And so I suppose that brings us on to, like, another question is, and I know this for myself as well, is that, you start a business, and anything, I can relate this to, like, different sports that I've done, that I start with so much passion and so much drive and love for what I'm doing, but sometimes it can become clouded through the common things as a human being is through things like power and money and this is just being totally honest and I've had that in certain parts of the business for myself as well, as going like looking at how many likes you got or how many followers and how much money you can make, and actually sometimes those things that our ego latches onto, they can cloud that passion and the authenticity that lies behind that.
There's 2 other bits as well with that I think like massively like clouds or can cloud if you allow it to cloud, and that those things are success and failure, whatever that is. So you have a big win, so you sell 20 pairs of shoes in a day and the cash is flying in and this, that and the other, and you can go home and go, this is so good, this is brilliant, this is fantastic, you know what I mean? You can be cloud 9, or you can go a week without selling anything and the failure completely clouds you, and it completely becomes like, well, what's the point, I can't do this anymore. And
so I'm going to stop you there for 1 sec. In fact, carry on, because I'm going to keep this in my head.
So the art to it really is just always somehow trying to maintain that status quo of like we're all, me, like I'm a very emotional person, so this is something I really have to work on. Is to try not to get too high and try not to get too low, and somehow just
the polarity
find my way in there. Exactly. So So that's something that in terms of clouding success and failure, clouding what you do and why you do it.
And how you define those things, is that you were saying?
Am I a good person or a bad person?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
that nonsense that goes through your mind can be defined by that cloudy area of success and failure. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Sorry, I was going to just
interject.
It's because my memory at the moment after doing that run is terrible. So I need to ask this question, but I've managed to remember it. So, in terms of like talking about failures and having those like drops in, I suppose, mood, and we've all been there, you know, in different times of life, and I suppose these things allow us to have that space to learn about ourselves. You know, if you're in that place, is what do you do? What's your sort of what have your coping mechanisms been? Because we've all had really bad coping mechanisms, and we've found other ways that aren't as damaging to maybe people around us or business or whatever's happening around you externally.
Yeah, coping mechanisms, really interesting one this, because I could probably really, certainly in this last 12 months, I think we've probably had 3, maybe 4 conversations that have been an hour long, do you know what I mean? Of maybe I should try yoga, maybe I should try meditation, maybe I should try counselling, maybe I should try therapy, medication, more exercise, more whatever. And the point being is, like, during those conversations, what in reality I was doing was searching for an answer for what was going on in my mind at that time, which was deep stress. Business coming through COVID, my business was in trouble, my staff were leaving, you know, and that in that moment felt like failure and felt like it was just falling apart. My whole life and world around me was falling apart. So, like it's difficult to explain because I just totally forgot what I was saying.
That's fine, that happens to me sometimes. Go around in a circle. But no, I suppose with so in terms of like
coping mechanisms.
Yes,
that was it.
One,
coping mechanisms. Right, coping mechanisms. So the work that I've been doing this last, so I've been doing quite a lot of cognitive behavioural therapy over the last 6 months or so. And one of the things that I asked my therapist, I said, look, like, you know, I do the things that the book says. I go out to nature, I spend hours just walking, you know, like in the beautiful hills and this, that and the other, and I kind of walk and then I might stop and I pause and I think and I'll eat healthier and I'll play football and all of those things. But at the end of it, I was finding that I just kind of sit down and I go, I'm supposed to feel better now. And because I don't, because I feel exactly the same as the moment that I took my first step on that walk. That felt like, well, what's the point? And what I've learned through the therapy is that it's because I wasn't giving myself the opportunity to enjoy that walk. I was looking for my expectation was that I'm going to do it and I'm going to feel better. But because there was no goal there, I'm going to walk, I'm going to make this walk, and at the end of it, I'm going to be able to say, well done, Simon. You've walked for 6 miles, you've walked through the countryside, you've heard robins, you've heard, you know, blue tits, sparrows, or whatever, you know, and you've spotted this and you've seen fish jumping in the so therefore all I'm doing is walk. So when you're walking blind, you know, unless you've got the goal.
Well, you're looking at the destination, aren't you, rather than I suppose the whole point of that was, again, is to like take you out your own head, isn't it? To be
because what is a walk in nature? Well, it's not going to make you feel better unless you have a goal that I am going to walk in nature. I'm going to enjoy these sounds and enjoy the wind on my face and the listening to the waves of the lake, you know, or whatever it is, wherever you're at or whatever you do, you know, tempted bowling, you know, like you've got to. It's that whole being present, isn't it? It's that whole being
for sure.
present.
And I think sometimes as well, and I've been here, and it slowly creeps up on you. It's not like one day you feel like shit, like it slowly creeps on you, like, how have I even got here? Right? And one thing that I think is there's like, we can, and I teach this in the meditation course as well, is about living in like separate worlds, and one world is just in your head, right? And actually when you're so like consumed by your own thoughts, and what's going on up there, and you're trying to figure out and analyse things and put things into boxes so that you can control them, that everything on the outside of you becomes almost disconnected and numb. So like when you go for a walk in nature, and like you're saying there, is that it doesn't become something tangible, that you're actually in nature and you're not connecting with what you're doing at that point in time. You're thinking about the processes within your head, which is a totally different thing, right? So it's living life in a world of thought and objectivity, objectifying things, rather than purely experience something outside of the realm of thought.
Absolutely. And I'll give you another great example of it. So like what I was really struggling with within this last, again, 18 months or so, and the stresses of the business, I found that I couldn't even enjoy being around my children, because my expectation was, I'll have a day with the children and I'll feel better because I love my kids and I want to be around them and they make me feel good, this and the other. But therefore, you start the day with, that's my expectation in the day, so you're looking for that feeling all the way through the day, like, when do I feel
it's the happiness trap, isn't it?
When do I feel good? Like the happiness trap. What moment am I going to go, oh, that's a lovely day. It's a smashing day. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like, it is that searching. So the trick to it, and the best piece of advice from the CBT that I can kind of pass on to somebody is that you've got to set the goal and the intention, and then truly commit to that, rather than like just. It won't just happen. The expectation will not make it. Make it happen just because you're doing it. You have to commit to it, and you have to be present in the moment. And I found it's really helped me. So like, just silly things like, it was Daisy's birthday in August, and I really sort of gave myself that talk in the morning that I need to enjoy this day, and I need to be present in this day for her, and just. And I found that by the end of the day, I'd pretty much dedicated every minute of that day to her. For that day. And I was proud and I was rewarded myself. Do you know what I mean? That actually, that was good. That was beautiful. That was the feeling because I knew.
Fully present in that, and that's what I suppose with you can with business, and I know that myself is that you can be so focused. So what you're doing with the business is pure quality. But actually, we should be able to do that and become present in whatever we're doing in every single part of our life. So exactly what you're saying there, all you did is go, I'm going to place all my quality and attention and concentration in this area. And to start with, it has to be like a cognitive process where you're saying, I'm going to set this intention and make it happen, but then it becomes automatic after that. So almost everything that you do becomes a meditation because you're being in the here and now, and you're fully there with everything. So everything that you touch, and this is what I try to do now, is going, and I ask myself, whatever I'm doing during the day is, am I fully present when I'm doing this? And even before someone comes in, even before this, is that I always say to myself, or any client that I have, I always go, sit down 5 minutes before, and I go, I'm going to give all my attention and everything selflessly to the person or whatever the task that I'm doing at this moment in time. So it doesn't really become about me or the sense of self. It just becomes something that you're being fully encapsulated by.
That's it. And that's something that really, I mean, I've done it for years with the business. But I've never done it really with my family or my friends for a long time, because I've just become so obsessed with the business, that the only thing that really mattered was the business, and I find that difficult to say, because when you've got 2 kids, it's like I was completely just in love with my business. You know what I mean?
But it's just truthful, and a lot of people have these. I think you're saying what people think, right? Which is why you're a unique individual, because you'll say
a career, or like, I'm obsessed. I've got to climb the ladder. I've got to get a promotion. I've got to do this. So I've got to work hard. I've got to commit more time. I've got to work weekends that maybe I shouldn't, you know what I mean? Because you're striving for something, and that's all well and good, but it is that whole
and exactly
what's important,
and the important things, and looking at that is going, what are the things that actually make you feel balanced, right? And where do you have that day-to-day sense of fulfillment? And it's usually in the smaller things rather than like the glitzy glamour type of stuff, which is like. But it's hard because it's like a diamond. It's it's sparkly and it's nice and it's like, oh, that's like, I want to move towards that.
It rewards the ego,
exactly.
rewards the pockets, the wallets, whatever. So those things are like, we all need money, we all want to feel good about ourselves, we all, won awards and things like that, and they're great feelings, you know what I mean, but they're not the most important thing.
No.
What I mean? And I think it's took me a right journey, and like I say, it's a cliche word and all that, but like this last 2 years in particular, I've really sort of got my head around that because of COVID and because of the consequences of COVID on my business and the really dark times, the difficult times of CBT and all that. It's helped me piece it all together. And, my book, what I'm writing, and things like that.
I'm really interested. I haven't really talked to you since you said about that. So I'd like to hear about that. You go on.
Yeah, so it's called Sold Out. So nice little put on shoes. It's the story of, so I've always had an ambition to write a book of some description, and I've done a bit of writing in my early 20s, like sports writing and things like that, on the back of college and things like that. And I loved it, and I love words and the dictionary, and I love piecing things together and writing a story. So I'd always harbored this ambition to write a book, but I'd never really had the topic or the subject, or like who even cares, you know what I mean? And then as I've sort of touched on over this last 18 months, I've had a really tough time, like mentally going through this massive awareness piece of balancing what's important at home versus what's important at work and business and things like that. And the consequences of COVID were that my business collapsed. It had to be wound up. I then had to file for bankruptcy, which then brings consequences from us as a personal in our personal life and things like that. And I realised that all of that, the story of coming through college and becoming a sports writer and becoming a photographer and then becoming a shoe guy and then losing it all and then coming again. That's the book. That's the book. It needs to be written. Do you know what I mean? It needs to be down, and not just for commercial reasons, but like for me kids. Like in the future. And the opening sort of forward of the book, I talk very much openly and candidly to my kids. So like when they do read this book in not hopefully anytime soon, but it's about that during their lives they will go through hardship. It's normal. They will go through divorce. They might lose a job that they love, be made redundant. They could get fired. They could get suspended from work for something that was a complete accident or whatever. They could lose a child. A child could die. Horrific things, and unfortunately that is what life does to you. Like you go through this like torture at times. And so my book is about that. Is about like that you are going to go through this stuff, and there are times where you will have suicidal thoughts, and you will contemplate that if you are better off alive or dead, which is like an awful thing to say. Do you know what I mean? But the point being is that you are better off alive, because what you're going through in that moment will open the door for the next thing. Do you know what I mean? Something bigger, something better, something more thing. So like in my darkest moment on the 23rd of December last year, and I thought that there was no point living anymore because my business was folded, and I had no staff left. Everything I'd worked so hard for had been washed away by COVID, and I had no future. There was nothing there for me. It was because I'd lost sight of the fact that I had 2 great kids and a beautiful wife, and I was completely obsessed with my business, and I'd lost it. So therefore, what's the point of living anymore? And then subsequently, the point of living anymore is because it gave me the courage and the story and the everything I was looking for to write this book. Do you know what I mean? So therefore, if I had not done all of that, then I would have never achieved that ambition, perhaps, of writing this book. So Sold Out, that's what it's about. It is a journey. It's a bit of a biography, but like the message in it, I'm hoping that when people read it, is that like. And I want people to read it in their worst moments. When they're fearing something like they're fearing a divorce, or they're fearing recovery from grief, or they're fearing the loss of job, or like what am I going to do with my life? Because like my thing is, I took this pain and this what was the worst moment of my life, and I created a book out of it. Yeah. Something I'd always harbored to do and wanted to achieve. And
it's quite. Have you found it quite a therapeutic process as well? Like it's like almost journaling and talking to yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. So yeah, I've loved writing it, and you know, it was funny because when I started to write it was like, I joined up with another girl who also had an intention to write a book, and we said, well, let's do a little book club and we'll get together once a month and we'll just write a chapter or something like that. So we did that, met the first time, we bounced ideas around of what our books would look like, and then by the time we met again, I'd written 12 chapters because I was just completely into it, and that's very much a trait of me, is like when I'm into something I'm just in, and I just couldn't help but writing, but it was because I was getting so much like energy and so much like joy and like pride. That's what I was getting, talking about journalism and all these things that I'd achieved, and getting onto Dragon's Den and you know, flying to Portugal on a Monday and flying back on a Tuesday and sleeping in an airport to make this dream happen, you know, things that you just forget about.
You've had the balls to live your life, you know, and do these things and take the risks, and I don't like running a business it's not all glitz and glam, is it? It's hard. It's very hard, and like it's important for people to understand what it's actually like in the background. I suppose that's going to be one of my next questions. But the first thing is like going, you know, you have done all these things and you've won awards, you know, because of the business. There's lots of things that, you know, looking from the outside in, are very inspiring, and you know, regardless of any of the bits where with like you're saying in regards to the business where you went to bankruptcy and now you're sort of building the business back up to where you want it to be, you have actually had the balls to go and say, this is my life and I'm going to do what I want to do, and it's my own unique path, and you know, you've had all of these amazing experiences and learned about yourself and come back in a full circle by writing this book again, and I suppose like piecing all these things together, that it'll make you a better person and also have a better business as well at the end of it. Like it's all there's always
I've got no doubt that the second coming of my business is going to be so much greater than the first coming, and that's, you know, like the first coming of it, Dragon's Den awards, like all of this, you know, 2019 £250,000 revenue, you know, we're making profit. I bought a vintage car, you know, all this sort of stuff. Like I was really like amazing, proud, like doing really well, lots of praise and lots of things, and my ego felt great, and this, that and the other. But the second coming of it is coming from, I know where I went wrong financially with the first business. I know where things that I would do differently now. I know like my product is so much better now, like the brand is so much stronger now. Like there's so many things that I look at now and I go, oh my god, I can start again. With all this experience, and all this wisdom, and all of this like failure that is now experience, you know, like it's just like, so like I'm really excited for the new coming of not just the business but the new coming of me. Do you know, so I've got such a better opportunity now than I've ever had.
No, and like it's great watching it from the outside in as well, you know. I suppose just finishing with this question, what would you say to Simon 5 years ago, of what he maybe didn't know, what he didn't know then, and then what is the vision for Simon 5 years from now?
So 5 years ago, Simon, I think I would just say I wouldn't change. The thing is, I wouldn't change anything than what's happened in that 5 year period. So what I would say is, you know, enjoy it for what it is. Like embrace every moment, and don't take it for granted because it can go. Do you know what I mean? And I think, but like I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
no,
Like,
I get it.
anything, like, because ultimately, as I've just said before, like whatever's happened has happened for a reason, and it now gives me so much more experience and wisdom to go forward from today. So I guess I'd probably say the same thing to the guy in 5 years' time. Do you know what I mean? Like, just have you enjoyed it? Have you enjoyed the last 5 years? That's what I would say. I'd be asking those questions. And like, did you learn from where you went wrong in those previous 5 years, or did you ignore that? Do you know what I mean? And I think honestly, like, I think that's the thing, isn't it? That's the reflective piece, and I think that's the thing. I know that I'm grounded, that like I'm not greedy, you know, and these are all thoughts that I have felt over this last year in particular, that I have been greedy, I've been selfish, none of that's true, and that's, you know, took me a long time to get to that position. I didn't go bankrupt because I was greedy. I'm bankrupt because I was unfortunate, and and because I made some mistakes. And you know, so I look at myself, and then I look at the surroundings and what caused it, and then I conclude that, well, you know, I was just having a go. I was doing the best I could in that situation.
Exactly.
It led to a really, really difficult time financially for me and my family, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't change it. So I think I'd probably ask the same question 5 years ago. I would say, tell him to enjoy it, and I would ask him, has he enjoyed it? You know, like, has he embraced it and felt it and owned it?
Yeah. No. Well, very insightful chat, as it usually is.
Actually, it was pretty quick, that one. Like, normally it's at least 2-3 hours. You know, I think we've got a solid half hour in there.
No, but fantastic, and I think a lot of people who listen to this will get a lot from it. You know, and hearing those things about the background of what happens in the business, and what, you know, what you've learned from the experience, and how you're using that hardship to inspire other people through hard times as well, you know, like the book, and then coming out the other end, and, you know, the business going to blossom from here. So
I just want to close on one thought, if you like. So, like, I talk a lot, like, privately and professionally, and this about ownership, and we talked right at the opening of this podcast about who you are, and like feeling insecure and things like that. And I was insecure because I didn't own who I was, you know, like I was just sort of hiding behind a caricature of who I was rather than the real me. And the business changed that. Owning yourself. The reason I can talk so candidly and openly about going bankrupt, or that the business failed or collapsed, or whatever you want to call it, is because I have no fear of how you might judge that. Because I own that myself. Do you know what I mean? So, like, you can think, or anybody who's watching this can think that, well, you know, he cocked up there and he did this. These are no thought. Whatever you're thinking is not something I haven't thought myself. Do you know what I mean? And I've concluded that I am a good person. I did it for the right reasons. I was trying my best. I made mistakes, but I'm human. Who wasn't? You know, and ultimately, like, I'm standing on my own 2 feet, and I'm owning it. You know, so nobody can touch me. Nobody can hurt me. Nobody can, you know, and that's
the judgment doesn't penetrate.
I'll write on social media, I am bankrupt, because you know what? It doesn't, like, so. Like, I own it. You know what I mean? So, like, exactly. Anybody who wants to question that, then that's on them. That's on. So own your own skin. Like, own who you are. Don't, like. I know it's a very extreme example, but if people want to see my medical records, I'll just show you. Do you know what I mean? Because I have nothing to hide.
Exactly. You know, and that's a very liberating thing. I'm carrying on the conversation here, but it's a very liberating thing, and I can totally relate with that as well. And it's that we talk about, you know, you're talking about your ego, and actually that is a dissolution of your ego. You're sort of like. The thing that makes us feel really important, the things that make us feel really important, or we're scared to show, as soon as you're able to show them openly, okay, that we usually like to hide or pretend that isn't happening, in denial of, then as soon as you're able to go to people, well, this is just me, and that's fine. And you truly mean it, you know, rather than just going, I don't care what anyone thinks, because there's a difference between there's a difference between, like, I don't care what anyone thinks in a very aggressive way, and just going, I don't really care, and that's where you're at now. And it's, you know, and like you say, we've had chats over the past year. and you can just tell a different person who is sitting here in a very good way, and it's like I say, great episode.
On to the next 25 years, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll have another one of these like 10 years down the line. See what.
Pleasure.
But no, thank you very much,
Cheers,
Simon.
man. Cheers, man.
Nice.
That's what we're doing it. Good crack, mate. Good crack.
If you want to listen to more podcast episodes, then join the Soul Vision subscription, where you'll gain access to loads of online content to aid you on your journey of self-discovery. Just go to www.lonewolfvision.com/soulvision. That's www.lonewolfvision.com/soulvision. Thanks so much for listening, and good luck on your own unique journey.